Fantastic, everyone, and welcome back. Thank you for coming back so promptly. Really appreciate it. So we're in the final stretch now. The next couple of presentations are about things that are really, really important and really hot in the market. We're going to be spending some time talking about programmatic, which is probably the most spoken about thing in media at the moment. So we're going to spend some time talking about that. But before we do, I'd like us to go to another short commercial break.
Well, you all know Shell, and I think we touch all different types of audiences. The motorist that loves cars, until the mom that picks up children from school every day, until the most sophisticated business-to-business companies. Basically, we follow our consumers where they are, and we try to reach them and engage with them in the most effective way. And we have seen some dramatic changes over the last years in terms of media consumption. I have a great example, which is truck drivers that 2-3 years ago, the penetration of smartphones within truck drivers was quite small in countries like China, Russia, India. Today, the reality is very different. So China, Russia, the penetration of smartphones is going through the roof. While in India, that's different. They tend to be perhaps a bit older, so the penetration is different. This is the challenges that we face as marketers, is the need to understand the behavior of our audiences in terms of media consumption and anticipate those trends as much as possible. YouTube is always a great destination. I try to think about digital almost like a pinball machine effect, where there are no dead ends, but you can continue your journey through YouTube annotations, which we have done, and is quite successful because you can invite your customers to continue the journey, to discover, to engage with your content. What I feel specifically in my case on B2B is that some of the strategies that we use with the business to consumer, there is no reason why we can't use the same strategies on the business to business. I think it's very, very important that we are there in what Google described as the zero moment of truth, which I think is absolutely critical for the business to business audiences. When they search for you, you need to be there, and you need to be there in the first page, because if you're not on the first page, you basically don't exist. And if you are in the first page and in the first position, that's even better. More recently, about 1 year ago, we started to use remarketing in search. I would say that the results are getting better and better and better. So we have made a decision to move to one global ad server. That would allow us, first of all, control of our own data, would allow us also consistency on the analysis, and by coincidence or not, it also allows us to reduce significantly the costs. We have made that decision to move to DoubleClick, and the more I think about it, and the more I see the benefits of it, the more confident I am that we have made the right decision in the right timing. Serving the right ad to the right audience in the right moment, I think that's the dream of every marketer. At the same time, you as an advertiser, as a brand, I encourage all of you, for those that are not so experienced in this area, to read articles, talk with consultants, check different companies, meet different people, get different opinions. Don't follow blindly the first advice that you receive.
So I think that video really kind of sets us up for this next session, which, as I said, it's around the big thing that's happening in our market today. It's about really understanding our customers and targeting where they want in the way that they want, and by using technology to underpin that. So what I'd like to do is I'd like to invite Rick Jones to join us. Rick's head of client development for DoubleClick here. So welcome to the stage, Rick.
Thank you. Hello, everyone. It's absolutely fantastic to be here. It's nearly the end of the afternoon, don't worry. Okay, so DoubleClick, you've obviously just been told what DoubleClick is, in case you didn't know. Who's using DoubleClick? Wow, That's not bad, actually. So actually, 75% of the top 100 advertisers in the UK use DoubleClick. So we're very much an established part of the ecosystem when it comes to ad tech and advertising. Most of the advertising or a lot of the advertising you receive as consumers also is powered by DoubleClick. So I'm going to talk to you about the future and programmatic. But to get there, to understand the future, just going to give you a little bit of a retrospective journey on data-driven marketing. But programmatic is essentially driven by data, which is obviously a common theme you've had throughout the day. But for us as marketers, this all started really back in the 20s when market research became a recognized discipline. So we started collecting insight about consumers for the first time. That was all sat, probably in filing cabinets and got dusted off occasionally. It wasn't really used that effectively. But obviously technology has transformed the way that we use those insights and the amount of insight that we can collect. So then we moved, in the 80s towards different forms of database marketing. You think about, in the B2C world, Tesco Club Cards, really making huge amounts of data very actionable, really making it transformational for your business. And then online marketing, obviously elements of CRM came in the 90s, Salesforce, who you're going to hear from in a minute, SaaS, AdWords. So all of those things, again, began to really make the space more exciting. And then ad tech, and this is really about today. So this is all the journey we've been on, but today it's got even more exciting. This has become truly transformational. And we're at this inflection point. So everyone got very bored with the whole big data chat. But it was very important because we're now beginning to see the fruits of all that promise. So you've got, for example, more data being collected than ever before in an exponential scale. You've got this huge industry that's grown up. Many of you are part of that, about using big data to drive enterprises. You've got the pain of bad data and how that drives inefficiency. So if you haven't got good, clean data, most of your marketing, or a lot of it, is ineffective, and that really matters. The world has woken up, as I say, and 90% of the top companies have a big data plan of some kind. The ecosystem has woken up. So agencies and other players in the ecosystem, like consultancies, are really grappling with this change. Sir Martin Sorrell, he recognizes the importance of data. And then, last but not least, CMOs. So CMOs, as we all know, are no longer just the guys who look after the customer or organize the TV campaigns. This is becoming a tech-orientated job. And out there, we see, as I'm sure you do, that is becoming reality, and very quickly. So what does all that mean for the future? So if you start with that original premise that data is effectively customer insight, always has been. It's always about the basic oxygen of marketing. Then what's happening now is that that's becoming a lot more actionable versus those filing cabinets of surveys and research back in the 20s. And importantly, that is now available in real time. So you can use that data. This exists now. That's why Shell is so excited. You can use that in real time to make a huge difference to your business. And it's about competitive advantage. So these are big numbers that we're talking. This is huge impact that we all need to be aware of. And don't just trust me on this subject. Jack Welch, puts it, I think, very well. So he's talking about businesses generally, and he's saying that there are two true sources of competitive advantage. One is that you learn more about your customers faster. So again, think about that real-time element. And that you are able to take that learning and do something with it, make it actionable faster. So those are the two things that Jack Welch believes will give any business the most competitive advantage today. And then back to the point about CMOs. So as I say, CMOs are waking up to this point too. So you've got Bonin from Mondelez, who's recognized the fact that if he can take all of the insight that he's got about his customers, if he can blend it together, if he can supplement it with other third-party sources, other first-party sources that he's got that he's not currently using, again, that's going to transform the way that he does his marketing and the effectiveness of it. So this is ultimately what we're doing. We're building a brain. We're building the marketing brain of the future. So you take all of that insight, imagine you can have it all in one place about any particular customer or prospective customer. And then you build the neural networks, you automate it, you make it actionable, and effectively you move towards artificial intelligence. Again, a huge trend of our times, and marketing is not alien to that. In fact, it's very much one of the industries which is now beginning to benefit from the transformational and disruptive force of artificial intelligence. So this is ultimately what we all need to be aiming to build, is your marketing brain for your organization. On to programmatic. Okay, I want you to all stand up. A bit more enthusiastically, please, come on. I know it's late. Okay, and then I want you to turn to the person to your right and tell them what programmatic is. And find someone, if there's no one on your right, just find someone. Okay. All workers are 3, that's fine. Threesomes are fine. If you don't know, go and find someone who does. Okay, that's good. Okay, you can all sit down. That wasn't me just being lazy and trying to run down my presentation. It was just to keep you energized. All right, maybe a little bit of the laziness. So programmatic buying, what is it? Does anyone want to? Okay, I'll explain it. So most of you, a lot of you I know will know, but programmatic buying, for anyone who doesn't know, is essentially, if you take that brain idea about how you use all of the insight, imagine your brain is automated, it's intelligent, it's full of information, and it's the marketing equivalent of that, where you determine what ad to put in front of any individual, and that decision is automated and made in real time. So eventually this will be, on billboards, on bus shelters. So imagine I'm walking past the bus shelter, it will show me the ad that's relevant to me at that point in time. That's ultimately what programmatic buying is, and that's incredibly efficient. So, here's an example. I'm a big sports fan, love football. I'm on the Sky Sports website at the weekend. I've just spent the last couple of weeks looking for a holiday. I've searched for holidays. I've been on holiday-related sites with holiday content. I may even have been on a competitor to Thomson's. And all of that insight has been collected through platforms like DoubleClick and delivered that ad, which is the right ad for me, on Sunday afternoon. So programmatic often gets complicated by acronyms and jargon, and we're all very confused. And what I really wanted to try and do today was simplify all of that so that we all pretty much grasp what is a very important concept, for the future of marketing. If you take this quote, which was from Matt Britton, the VP for Northern Europe for Google, and he's basically saying, as I've said, not that I'm Matt Britton, but he's saying ignore all the jargon. Programmatic is essentially doing better marketing faster using technology in a smarter way. And that's all it is. So again, think about the brain. This should all just happen. If we can put the plumbing in place, collect all the insights, have it all working together, this should just happen. And then we can go on and do much more interesting things, be much more creative as marketers. And that's true of B2B as it is of B2C. So you need to start somewhere. You need to start collecting data. Now, I know obviously everyone in this room will be very familiar with that. given what you do. But again, if you take the brain concept, what fuels that brain is the oxygen of information. So you can't collect enough information about your customers, whether it's analytics on the website or how they've reacted to campaigns or not reacted to campaigns, all of the information you have in your CRM databases, what they've done on social media. You literally, shouldn't be going to bed at night without thinking, how much more information can I collect? Because increasingly that is possible. And that's, as marketers, what we all need to be curious about all the time. And the technology now exists to deal with the complexity of all that information and turn it into that perfect ad delivered programmatically. And ultimately, we're trying to build this single view. So that brain is saying, I've crunched through all of that insight, literally in nanoseconds, and I understand everything I need to about that person at that moment in time. It's the aspiration, the nirvana that, as marketers, again, we've all struggled to build. I used to work for John Lewis, and we were always trying to blend Waitrose insight with John Lewis insight with the partnership card insight into one view. It was so hard. Really, I almost swore then, I've been told not to. It was really hard, and we all know that. But the technology now exists to make that happen. So you have to take it seriously. And again, this is what programmatic is and the future that we're all trying to build. So at Google, we take that very seriously. We are, by definition, a big data company. So all of our heritage is built through collecting insights about our customers or potential customers. And therefore, we built an infrastructure that supports this idea of collecting all of those insights wherever they might be. But above that, we've got also an open system. So we can integrate not only the insights that we collect on your behalf, your own insights, but also those of other third parties. And ultimately, as we'll go on to hear a bit about from Jeremy from Salesforce, the dream of this is that one-to-one marketing. So not just the message I get when I'm on Sky Sports on Sunday, but all the subsequent messages that you need to deliver to someone to really get them as a customer or grow them as a customer thereafter. So building on those themes that I've gone through, there are three things that we believe we can do with that infrastructure that we have at Google and DoubleClick. The first is about collecting data. So if you accept that idea that you literally can't collect enough information about a customer in order to deliver them the right message, we've got the analytics solutions, we've got the campaigns, we've got the integration with CRM systems, and we're now building effectively an enterprise approach to this area. And the big idea that we followed in the last couple of years is the ability for all of that tech to work together. Again, think of the brain. The brain is the brain is to a certain extent made up of different departments or silos of information. But your thoughts are generated because all of that works together. There are no barriers. It happens, again, in real time. So we built the technology on one single platform so that all of it does actually work together in real time and together seamlessly. So you don't get inefficiencies and you get that pure 360 single view of a customer. And thirdly, you want to put that into action. So this is the programmatic delivery systems, real-time bidding, and other ad tech that gets the message to that right person at the right time. So this is the vision that we built towards. This is why, as I say, the likes of Shell have been so excited, because we are now delivering on that promise, and the results are pretty spectacular. This is that technology stack. So this is the whole system that works together as one piece, but equally you can take any part of it and make it work generally with other technology that you're using. So we've got everything from analytics through to odometry, which is our enterprise attribution solution, and then the DoubleClick suite of Campaign Manager, Bid Manager, Search, and Rich Media. It also integrates with Tag Manager and also with AdWords and YouTube. So this is all, again, one seamless system to give you that 360 view and the benefit of programmatic buying. And so before I wrap up, this is just one, as I said, this is happening now. People are enjoying the benefits. So one example here is from Sage, who worked with Neo, Ogilvy. They had a challenge, which is to increase the number of trials for Sage 1. They wanted, as you would do for a normal campaign, high volumes. They wanted efficiency. The quality of those leads was very important to them. And so the solution came through DoubleClick. And what they did through Neo was to take a lot of data, a lot of channel segments based on previous campaigns they'd run, information they had about their customers. They then layered on that keyword contextual targeting, which is saying, I know that Rick is interested in sport because he's on that page, or we know that Rick is interested in travel because he's on a page about travel. Another layer of insight that determined whether that was the right ad to show to me. And then for anyone who didn't convert there and then, they also ran retargeting. So all of that can be done within one system. If you think about that technology stack that I just showed you, and you think about the marketing brain working in real time to determine whether to show an ad and which one. And that delivered. So some great stats off the back of this campaign. 51% of all the conversions ended up being through this part of the campaigns versus other channels. And on average, the cost per conversion was 57% lower than the other tactics, and also a much lower CPM. So this is one of many examples that I could give you, but I think a great one to show today. So in summary, there are three things that the world of programmatic does better than any form of marketing we've really seen before. One is about efficiency. So again, think of the brain. You don't need multiple brains. You don't necessarily need lots of people doing this. You actually need less people because everything's being done in one place, and because so much more of what you did before in terms of media buying and planning is automated. So you get instant efficiencies as a result. Also, you get insight. So rather than having to splice all of that insight and understand it separately, you have it there in one place in the system. So you can run reporting, you can run attribution, and you can run 360 views of your customers. And the combination of those two things are what deliver the performance. So you've just seen the Neo and Sage example. So these are delivering real results now. So thank you very much. I would say, take programmatic very seriously. Think about how you currently structure your data. Think about the promise of being able to deliver the perfect ad to the right person and the real benefits that will bring, and to build the marketing brain. Thank you very much.
Brilliant. Did anyone notice the Rick's final slide with a thank you? Can we just go back one slide? Would that be okay? Any idea what this is? It's a server farm. It's a data center. Look at the size of it. It's absolutely enormous, but it just really demonstrates the amount of data that we've got out there. Not we, but us, everybody's got out there. And I think it really puts into perspective the size of the challenge that we have. And it was great to see that kind of definition, the jargon-free definition of what programmatic is. But I think what we need to be thinking about as we're building our marketing brain is that we need to let technology do the heavy lifting. No longer can we be doing this through a series of spreadsheets and backs of post-it notes and whatever systems you may have used in the past. We're now in a place where technology can do this for us, can really, really help accelerate what we're trying to do and make it better and more efficient. Great. Well, we're on to our final speaker, and I'm really, really pleased that we've got Jeremy joining us from Salesforce. what's so great about it for me is because they're one of those companies that I always look at and always learn from what they're doing. They're always willing to push, really take big leaps, do things very differently, and they're incredibly effective at what they do. So Jeremy's the evangelist, it tells me on the slide, but I was going to say head of digital strategy for Marketing Cloud at Salesforce. And he's going to tell us about the panacea of one-to-one marketing. So please come on up to the stage. Thank you. I wasn't expecting you to come from that side.
That's all right.
Great.
God, you made that sound so exciting. I can't wait to listen to what I'm going to say. How are you, everyone? You okay? Everyone's really quiet. I sat at the back and everyone's scribbling away. I won't be offended at all if everyone's heads are down and tweeting. Jeremy Waite on Twitter. I think the hashtag for today is Google B2B. Is that right? B2B Google. I've not eaten today and I've had tons and tons of coffee. I was in Sweden about 2 hours ago. So I've just got in. So hopefully this is going to go okay. I'm going to try and do a presentation that I don't normally do. Normally I talk a lot about tech, talk a lot about product and a lot of the clients that we've got. I'm very lucky to work for this company. It's the fastest growing enterprise software company in the world at the moment. It's turned over about 6 billion and we've created what is in effect the biggest marketing cloud in the world. So I was going to talk to you a little, tiny bit about that, but I thought rather than do, this is the product, this is what it does, this is why it's amazing, please buy from us. I'm not going to do that at all. And it's really interesting when you were just talking about technology, doing the heavy lifting. Because what I'm going to try and talk about for the next 22 minutes is that we ask too much of technology and not enough of ourselves. That actually there is a problem, I think, in our industry. I don't want to set things off too provocative, but I remember talking to Jeff Hammerbatcher years ago, the first ever data scientist at Facebook. And he said it sucks that the best minds of our generation are trying to get people to figure out how to buy more ads. And it seems that as the world's getting faster and faster and faster, and consumer trust is getting less and less and less, we're just beating people around the heads too quickly with ads without doing the piece before it, which is building a relationship. And as we all know, every good relationship anyway, has to be built upon trust. So I'm going to try and talk about that, if that's okay. I've got an example of a customer that I think is doing it quite well. And then if we've got time for Q&A, I'd love to dig into any specific questions you've got. I'd be happy to talk about products as well later on. Basically, our company is split into 3. Sales Cloud, Service Cloud, Marketing Cloud. We now have Analytics Cloud that launched at the back end of last year. All this is about, if we're looking at the premise of today, is how do we build relationships faster? I'm going to try and suggest that we need to join the dots between all of these different silos because all the business units operate in completely different levels. Part of my job is going in the boardroom and speaking at exec level. So I'm going to give a very sort of 30,000-foot view today about the way that I think we should communicate our messages to executives about how do we sell faster, support faster, and promote faster, because I'm not convinced that we do a fantastic job at that. We're really good at looking at optimization and looking at our click-through rates and how we can get our marketing strategies in place, but often I think we sometimes miss that piece that goes before. How do you build a properly loyal, trusting relationship with a customer that's going to stay with you for a long time, not just get that quick transaction? There's millions of technologies we can get a quick ROI. That's not hard. Building a relationship when you're taking someone from an unknown person to someone that's known is incredibly difficult. One of our biggest clients is Live Nation. They track up to 4,000 attributes of every single customer in order to be able to do predictive analytics, to know where they've been, where they are, where they're going, what they're going to go and see next year. I'm going to give you an example of that in a second, and hopefully some valuable sort of advice and some tips, I think, that might help you make sense of this when you're explaining this to your clients, your bosses, executives. Does that sound okay? Awesome. So, Salesforce historically is a B2B company. The Marketing Cloud is historically B2C. I was really thankful when I was asked to come down, but I was like, shit, I swore already. I said I wouldn't swear. How do I make sense of the B2B conversation around marketing? Because it's an incredibly difficult one. We have a lot of big B2B clients. I've just come from Sweden with Volvo. We have General Electric, turn over 146 billion, use our technology for almost everything. We've got Philips. And I looked at one of the biggest agencies in the world, I won't call them out, but when you actually look at what the difference is between B2B and B2C, it's almost identical. I'm sure you've got that as a theme for today, that there's not actually that much difference between the two, and the lines are incredibly blurred. And what Forrester is saying is that in the future, Amazon.com style B2C customer experiences will define the standard. One of the things that I think is most important is that saying B2B companies must prepare for a world where mobile is integrated into the commercial journey. So that's what I want to talk about a little bit. And what I see all the time is people trying to build mobile responsive sites. They're not looking at apps and everything's in silos, even though we all know 86% of eyeballs are within apps. They're not within browsers. And they look at customer journeys within an app, and then that's it. Then they look at the customer journey on mobile and desktop and then connected things and venues, wristbands and fridges and cars and all that kind of stuff. And no one's joining up the dots. So you've got all these separate customer conversations going on when each business unit's operating completely independently. Customers not having a great experience, right? Because you've got all these different messages. And because we haven't got the data in one place, like you was putting so eloquently before, we're beating the customers around the head with this click to buy mentality and we're just pissing them off. And we're losing them. And I don't think it's any surprise that there's never been a wider gap between business, industry, commerce, and governments in the lack of trust at the moment. And my boss believes we're in the middle of a trust revolution. Forrest is saying, actually, it's just going to blur together completely. I'm not going to do the cliche, it's all people to people now and human to human, but it's just so blurred. So the example I'm going to give you is a mixture of a B2B and a B2C brand in a little minute, just so that you can see how it is that some of our customers use our technology to try and make sense of this nonsense. But before we do that, who's seen this before? This came out 9 days ago. You're all smart people, right? You've seen the new one. The one last year had 946 brands in it. This one's got 1,876, 43 separate categories. The only reason I wanted to bring this up is because in conferences like this, we love this shit, you know. We talk about this all day long, and aren't we fantastic? And we've got social ads and search and display. And actually, if you look at social media marketing, there's about 2,200 vendors if you look at all of them. The reason I wanted to bring this up is because I wanted to just cast a slightly different angle on it that I keep seeing all the time, which I think is the root of this problem. You know Dave Brailsford, performance director of Team GB. I'm a big cyclist. I love Team Sky. He's the head of Team Sky. And he's got the phrase that you will have heard a million times, marginal gains. This idea of incremental returns, that lots of tiny, tiny improvements in lots of areas, you know, we optimize all these things, and overall we have success. It works in our personal lives, works in professional lives, works for performance athletes, obviously. It does not work in technology. It's the biggest problem that I see when people aren't joining the dots, when we don't elevate the conversation high enough. Because marginal gains is picking your favorite solution in each one and then using some kind of connecting technology like a Janrain or a Telium or someone to try and connect them together. Effectively, companies at the moment are trying to build their own marketing clouds. And they think it's the right thing to do. In actual fact, it ends up being completely the wrong thing to do because none of their data talks to each other. They haven't got a single view of their customer. They're less productive, less efficient, lifetime value is less, loyalty decreases, customer satisfaction goes down. And it's a huge problem that we don't talk about enough. Now, I'm not saying that Salesforce has got all the answers. All I am saying is that we need to have some kind of hub where we've got a single view of our customer. And there's one slide, which is my favorite slide in the world, which I'm going to show you in a little bit, which I hope you all take a picture of, because I did it on my own. Just to try and solve this problem. I was at a conference a couple of weeks ago. It was $10,000 a ticket for this conference. It was just C-suite. And it was about big data and single view. And I was asking people, and I even offered really expensive champagne, can someone just explain what big data is, what a single view is? And I'm not kidding, not one person in the room could explain simply what that was. So I built this slide that I thought would be useful to share with you. My boss says companies are no longer competing against each other anymore, they're competing against speed. And actually, when you look at a survey from last year, 70% of marketers believe the industry's changed more in the last 2 years than the last 50. I don't believe that. I'm sure a lot of you guys don't believe that, because that covers an awful lot of ground, right? TV, radio, billboard, press, search, display, the web. Covers everything that's happened. And I actually went back, I was thinking about it, and if you look back 50 years, it's 1965. It was the first year that Time magazine published 50 million words in 1 year. Now it takes Twitter 8 minutes, 40 seconds. It took them about 3.5 years to send the first billion tweets. It now sends just over 1 day. And I was thinking, has the industry changed that much? Because that's the problem, that we've got so much more technology. Whether we're in the bubble or not, it doesn't make any difference. But we have a huge problem. This used to be 3 years. It's now down to 2 years. All the data from the beginning of time to 2003 is now reproduced every 48 hours. How on earth do we make sense of that? eBay is talking about this huge amount of digital data, and they want to connect people across desktop and mobile and social and connected things, and then within apps, and be able to join that up online and offline. How do you do that when your job's never going to be as easy as it is today? The universe is going to be 10 times bigger in the next 5 years. Does anyone recognize this? It's a great photo. I love this. This is a trading floor at UBS just over at Greenwich. It's about 1,000 traders. I think they have 1,000 workstations, about 3,000 traders at any one time. This sums up the industry for me. I talk to a lot of B2B brands and financial services brands, and they say one of the problems that we have with speed and with this transactional relationship that we have with our customers that is very much inherent in marketing. They said if you look back 20 years, the amount of time that somebody held a share was 4 years. It's now 22 seconds. And if you think about that, a share is an interest in a company, right? People are only interested in companies for 22 seconds. Hillary Clinton spoke at our conference just at the back end of last year. I was lucky enough to talk to one of her strategists, and she's going to probably set a campaign off in July this year. She's saying that the attention span now of the average American person is 5 seconds. So how are we going to tell our stories in seconds as people are, storytelling in a swipe? The only way you can do that is if you've got all of your data in one place so that you know the second you've got someone's attention on any device, it doesn't matter what it is, on any channel, we need to give them exactly the right message at exactly the right time. Yeah? My mouth's going dry. I'm talking fast. My coffee's kicking in. Is everyone okay? I'm going to go to my favorite slide. My second favorite slide, from Hillary Clinton to Tinder. You like that? We've got this transactional relationship with our customers when everybody's swiping, right? Who's seen one of their friends? I'm not going to call you out. You've seen your friend that's been in a pub and he's got Tinder for the first time on his phone, and he's just going mental, right? And his finger's going at the speed of light, and the law of probability means he's going to get a hit at some point and maybe get a result. Maybe he has that transactional relationship with a lady and he has his one-night stand. It's certainly not what's going to build a long-term relationship. And I know it's a little bit playful, but I just see that's what we're doing in marketing. And that's what we're doing in performance marketing. That's what we're doing in ad tech, because we're trying to serve that transactional relationship too quickly. And we're too fast to go for the ROI, for the one-night stand, for the quick relationship that gets a figure, and then we can run on to our next campaign. And what we don't look at is loyalty. There's a fantastic book called The Loyalty Effect by Fred Reichard. He's the guy that invented the NPS score. Compares two companies. Think about this. One company loses 5% of its customers every year. One company loses 10% of its customers every year. Both companies grow by 10% a year. Do you know what happened in 14 years? The first company would have doubled in size. The second company wouldn't have moved. But we don't think like that in marketing because we're so quick in the 22 seconds, in the 5 seconds. We don't act like the shopkeeper who knows everything about his customer when you walk in. He doesn't try and sell you stuff straight away. He knows your dog, your holiday, where you've been, your family, your problems, your illnesses. We need to think more like this, the small town rules. Now, that's essentially all big data is trying to do. I was in my local bookshop the other day. I bought this. I normally buy books for about £2. This was just a couple of weeks ago. And now this one was £50. Like, shit, that's a lot of money for an old book. But it's called How to Do Business. And I had a flick through, and it had a chapter on how to build recommendations, how to write replies, how to advertise, and how you should write advertising copy. It was comparing it to Steam, how everyone was scared of Steam. But yeah, this advertising thing is going to be okay, even though at the moment it's being used by charlatans. There's an entire chapter on the sacredness of privacy, and there's a chapter on personalization. You can see where this is going, right? This is the first edition from 1857. Turns out it's worth about $4,000. I had no idea. It's a good result, right? But the problems that we're facing, hundreds of years old. This isn't a new problem. Things have got faster, but we're still trying to build a trusted relationship. And we're trying to use data to do that. When I speak to CMOs, they say the same stuff that you would normally expect. We're looking at hundreds and hundreds of challenges, but actually it just comes down to 3: profitable revenue, connecting customers, competition in the marketplace. This is the CMO survey for 2015. How do we sell more stuff? How do we look after the customers we've got? How do we deal with competition in a very fast-paced world? In actual fact, if you look at the CMO report, it covers a lot of CEOs that IBM do once every 2 years. They say really it just comes down to understanding individual customer needs. There's a beautiful line in the back of that book when there's these 3 volumes, and the guy that's writing the book, he says, sum up, he's the wealthiest guy in the world, apparently at the time, in the 1850s. What is it that you did to become so successful? How did you run your business? And he just said, sir, I understood my customers and I attended to them, which I think is like one of the most beautiful lines I've ever heard. How do we do that for the customers that we've got? And this is the slide I wanted to talk to you about with big data. All that big data consists of is 4 things. It's not complicated. We make out it's incredibly complicated. When we talk about single view, trying to get the data to serve the right ad and the right piece of content and the right social message at the right time. There's only 4 components of big data. That's it. Customer data, everything from your CRM. Social data, we have Radian 6 command centers as part of our marketing cloud, tracking about 600 million blogs and forums now. Everything from the social web. How do you take all of that behavior, align that up with your customer data from separate channels? How do you tie in your purchase data with everyone you've got a transactional relationship with? 37% of chief execs at the moment don't know how to measure lifetime value. And because of that, they go and try and get the quick shareholder value. They don't look at loyalty enough. And the last piece is connected data. From whatever that is, a toothbrush, a wristband, a Fitbit, car, Tesla dashboard, we do a lot of the technology behind all of that. That's all it is. Data's growing, 2.5 quintillion bytes a day. To put that in perspective, that's a company the size of Google every 4 days. And we're struggling to keep up, right? You ask a data scientist really what this is, and they just say the same thing. Big data is just volume, velocity, and variety. How much, how fast, where does it live? McKinsey talk about customer journeys, and I don't need to convince you about the merits of why you should join up all your data, but obviously less likelihood to churn, willingness to recommend, renewals and satisfaction is incredibly high. We need to connect the dots no matter what the channel, no matter what the device. What we ask our customers to do when we start this journey is answer 4 simple questions. It's a great workshop, actually. I'd encourage you to do this. If there's takeaways, I'd encourage you to go away and do this with the different teams that you've got. Do you know exactly who your customers are on every channel? Whereabouts are they in their journey? Are you moving them along that journey? If you are, could you move them faster? Could you increase the sales cycle? Should you decrease it? Can you increase lifetime value, customer satisfaction? Are you measuring those impacts on your goals? And if you are, what exactly are you measuring? Because just because you can measure everything, right, doesn't mean that you should. There's about 400 different marketing metrics, I think, at the moment. The biggest companies that I work with only measure 5. I'll show you what they are quickly in a second. Now we've got, that's slow, by the way. It's not 3 minutes left. I have a 3-minute video and about 4 minutes left to talk to you. Shall I miss the video, or should we just go in to finish up and have Q&A? What would you prefer? How are you all doing? The video as well? Let's play the PlayStation video, thanks.
With the launch of PlayStation 4, we are extremely excited because we put a lot of effort into making sure that we listen to our customers. It really isn't just about features, it's about the overall feeling of being part of a massive community of gamers. It means that we're constantly striving to keep up with their demands, and at the end of the day, we're only as good as the customers coming back day after day, playing and then purchasing PlayStation. Our products are connected by their very nature, so our customers are connected to all of their friends, they're connected to us. When we started thinking about all the data sources that we had, it was almost like, oh my God, what are we going to do with this? We're sitting on this goldmine of information that really can enhance our customer experience. And the Exact Target Marketing Cloud provides us the tools to really analyze the interactions we have with our customers in a real-time fashion that we haven't had before. When you get down to the fact you can see what people are playing and see how they're playing and how far they get into games and what sort of games they're playing, you really then can actually start to segment these audiences and provide a customer experience for them that actually they relish. We have conversion rates of almost 50% greater, and that's actually not just about selling. I don't think it's just about selling, it's about providing them content and providing them information. So when you get to a certain level within a game, you get a trophy. Well, we can see that data and we can say to our customers, you've reached this level, therefore you're going to get this free gift of some digital download. So it does feel very personal. It feels like actually somebody's bothered to take notice. the direct communication that we now do, whether it be web, whether it be mobile, whether it be email, whether it be social, is essential to the success because it's about the interaction between us and our customers. So it's a one-to-one communication that they expect. They like to see the big brand campaigns, but they are becoming more active when these messages are much more targeted and much more relevant to them because we have analysed the data and we can work with the data closer. And the ability to do the direct communication with the tools that ExactTarget Marketing Cloud provide really will make that success happen for PlayStation 4. And I think when a company takes notice in a way that's actually correct as opposed to just pretending to take notice, then I think actually the customer will look at it and go, oh, okay, you've passed the test today. Yeah, but you've got to keep coming back and passing the test every day.
Cheers, thanks mate. The reason I wanted to show you that is because the quadrants that I was talking about before, big data, customer data, connected data, social data, and then all your purchase data. If you ask my boss, Mark Benioff, why the Marketing Cloud exists and why we do what we do, why did Sony, for the 120 million fans that they look after every single day on every device and understand everywhere that they go, he says, we're the only company in the world that can connect all of that data in one place. That's not the sales pitch, that's what we do. And some of you guys are going to deal with various pieces of that, whether it's customer insights or purchase data or performance or ad tech. Salesforce exists to help and support you guys when you need to join up all of that data. How exactly do you do that? Sony seem to be doing an incredibly good job at the moment. They're noticing huge lifts in engagement, big lifts in conversion. We did this for Live Nation. When I was saying before, they track 4,000 attributes of their customers. They have about 400 million transactions every year, 25,000 events. Every single event, every app, every connection, every email, everything through social all goes through our Marketing Cloud. That sounds like a good thing because we're connecting all the data, but what Live Nation are finding is that because they've now got this single view of the customer, they sell more tickets. What we never realized until we started on the journey with Live Nation, there's a great video about it on YouTube, that the biggest problem they had was that 40% of their tickets went unsold. Because actually, that was just the biggest problem. There's the myth that Live Nation sells out super fast and a lot of tickets go in the black market, and that wasn't the case at all. So they put this into play just to try and figure out how to solve that. And it sounds very B2C, but when we started off saying B2C and B2B are just getting so blurred, I wanted to use that as an example because there's a beautiful line in the Sony case study that says, we will speak to our customers, whoever they are, on their preferred channel. Not the channel that we think they should come to us on, not the forum, not the chat pod, not the service cloud, not the agents or install, whatever they come to us on first. That's where we'll speak to them. And the proof in that is because Forrester's saying 75% of people that get pissed off and they don't get a resolution on their first channel, they bounce from channel to channel to channel. And on average, at the moment, this is costing companies 22 million per year in escalated service costs. I mean, as marketers, we look about making money in ROI all the time. Actually, it's a lot cheaper and a lot easier to see how much money we can save a brand. And we can do that when we start looking at loyal relationships bounded on trust rather than the quick ROI and the sales. So what does that mean? Last couple of slides. This is a command center we have for Dell. The reason I like this is because there's hundreds and hundreds of metrics that they could measure. Dell measure 5. This is why they're one of the most socially advanced companies in the world. Who are our customers? What are they saying? Why did they say those things? Where did the conversations take place and when? 6,000 tweets a second. Half-life of a tweet is 6 minutes. If we don't respond quickly enough, we're going to lose that customer and lose the engagement. I encourage companies all the time, break everything that you can to start with to understand your customers down to this. And the smart ones afterwards will figure out how did we do it and what was the outcome. So I'll leave you with my favorite quote, one of my favorite Google people, Avinash, information is powerful, but it is how we will use it that will define us. We shouldn't beat people around the head with a quick sale or a quick ad. We need to try and build long-term relationships. We need to think big, start small, scale fast. Obviously, I'd love you to use some of our technology. I believe that we're the best company in the world at doing this. Yeah? That's awesome. Thank you very much for your time. Thank you.
Jeremy. Thank you very much indeed. Incredibly informative. Rick, can I call you up onto the stage? So we're almost there, but I think there's a real opportunity here to ask these guys some questions, dig in a little bit deeper on what they've been talking about. So just for a moment or two, if we've got any questions, we've got some mics still around the place. Any questions coming up? Yes, one here. Thank you.
Hi, I've got a question for, it's Chris Simpson, by the way, from Florian. We're an education business. And for Rick, the promise of programmatic and kind of everything joined up from a DoubleClick end-to-end point of view is great for very big businesses with a lot of data, but it's quite hard for kind of small to medium businesses to get those benefits. How quickly do you think the product will evolve to the point where they can join the party?
Yeah, I think it's an absolutely fair call. I think you're still looking at sort of 2-3 years away. Having said that, there are alternatives now, as you're probably aware. AdWords does a lot of this, is programmatic. You can get display, video, obviously search. So the barriers to entry, you're right, for DoubleClick are high, but for SMEs, there are other alternatives, but it may take us a while before, you're right, everyone can get the dream.
Thanks.
Any other questions?
There has to be more questions. Everyone's worn out.
It's been a long day. They've been overflown with too many ideas. So Jeremy, may I ask you one?
We had one on the front.
Oh, right. I'll save mine till later.
Okay.
Do you connect the big data and all the visitors data, all the customer journey data directly with the merchandising aspect of it? So like a merchandiser could really see, this has happened on this product, I'm gonna react with content for this particular product, or is it like only the data? Because I think that the content part of it is critical, so to make sure that you adjust the content in the right way based on the data you have. Is that also connected in Salesforce?
I'm not sure what you mean.
Because we are using Step as a publication tool. You might know it's driving the catalog in the web. And the challenge that we face today is how we connect the data that we try and bring together with our merchandising tool, basically with our CMS, to make sure that the changes that we do on that CMS are relevant based on the data we've got, actually.
In order to publish better content or provide better products? Yeah, and we have a product for that, as you would expect. When I was with a car manufacturer a couple of days ago, they're talking about how do they connect everything. There's a couple of things that they need to do because they've got an incredibly big website. They have everything through mobile. They have a lot of apps, but they also have a lot of connected vehicles. And the reason, and again, one of the compelling reasons why they use some of our technology was because they want to do a couple of things. They realize that they're a B2B brand, and they want to make sure that they serve exactly the right piece of content. So they're scraping all the data that comes in from all of their customers, which I think was close to 500,000 mentions a day. And they were doing that in order to figure out not just exactly what they should say, but when they should say it and on which channel. But then what they're also doing is being able to take the data from the cars, for example, to figure out has the customer got exactly the right car. If it was a fleet solution, have they got the right vehicle for the role that they want to do? Is there an upsell opportunity for us to be able to go in and say, look, you've got this, you could save money and be more effective if you have this vehicle instead, because you can connect all that data and see that in real time. So whatever you do with that is entirely up to you. We have some clients that just want to use it for content, which is why we're so big in media and publishing. Some of the B2B brands, like General Electric, if you have a look on YouTube, just search a General Electric's Salesforce story, and all of the data comes straight off the engines. And the engines not only helps them figure out exactly what to put on Facebook and YouTube, it also helps them figure out the performance that goes straight through to the engineers, helps them innovate with new products and go straight through to the service agents. There's a very large luxury car brand that we're about to announce, hopefully very soon, and even the tire pressures are fed into the system, so the customer service agents can respond to the customer in real time. So yeah, you connect everything. I mean, obviously it's all in the cloud and trusted and safe infrastructure, but Mark Benioff was a hacker at heart when he built Salesforce, so it's a completely open architecture. We've got SDK kits that anyone can just build on and do what they want on the Salesforce One platform. Sorry if that sounded salesy.
Fantastic. One final question in the corner.
Thank you very much. It's Darren Barber from Mediacom. So I'm wrestling with, I counted them, there were 3, so I'm going to try and remember what they are. There's 3 things that have come out today that I'm wrestling with in terms of how to connect everything together, and everyone's talking about customer focus and one customer focus. So the things that I struggle with a little bit, we're talking about brand health being really important, and I think that might come out in trust, but it also comes out in initial awareness and perception of the business. And I think Chris from HP mentioned, I think that brand health was kind of the initial nugget that then told them they maybe need to change the way that they market. So that's a thing, brand health. The next thing was the amount of touch points that a customer, really important point, a prospect might go through before they become a customer. So there's lots of different touch points. Some of them aren't digital. Some of them are offline. Some of them are talking to mates. So there's that data that you can't get into a digital space. And then I think the final point was what Hannah said, which is 70%, depending on the industry, of the conversation happens anonymously. These are people that don't want to be leads. They don't want to talk to vendors face-to-face yet. They want to be anonymous. So from your perspectives, and I think it's a fair challenge, I think, for everyone that's spoken today, how do we mesh brand health, which is qual, offline and conversations that can't be tracked digitally, and the fact that the conversation happens anonymously into this story?
Shall I give the 60-second answer, and then because that's just a beautiful question in itself. To start with the online-offline thing, there's lots of technologies that can help do that. It's a big conversation, but once you start looking at hashtag data from whatever, a loyalty card or a connected product or information in store, and then matching that up with custom audiences or online data, there's definitely ways of doing that. CPG brands for sure, Walmart, Tesco, some of the big consumer brands, CPG brands in the US are starting to do that incredibly well. So I could talk to you about that later on, but it'd be too boring to do that openly. There's a great book that I think I'd recommend for everyone, and it'd be easier to recommend it rather than try and give the long explanation, because the Dell case study exists in a book called Ultimate Question 2.0. And when you look at brand health, and you look at all the things that Dell were doing, the reason that they did it, and the reason this book is so good, by the way, is because it's one of the only books I've ever seen when they've been completely transparent with how they did it on every single channel, the value of every tweet, the value of every mention, how they worked it out with Bain. But the outcome of that was that Dell just wanted to improve the brand health because a lot of people hated them. Too many customers, 8 million transactions a year, customers a year. And they found that if they could just improve their customer service enough by taking 50% of the people that hated them into a place where they didn't really care, basically detractors to passives, it would add $160 million in direct sales to the bottom line. That's not assumed value or earned, but that's hardcore sales, directly linked to customer service and brand health. And the book's amazing. I'd recommend that you read that because it answers all of those questions super well.
Okay, should we sum up there then?
I was going to answer
Thanks
that.
very much. Rick, were you going to answer?
No, you go for it. We're out of time.
Okay.
So before Kevin does his thing, thank you both the speakers. Thank you very much indeed.
Well done. Great stories from Jeremy. Right, 30 seconds. Can I sum the whole thing up in 30 seconds? Kurt made you play some inappropriate games and tried to get you out of your rivers of thinking. Maggie talked about B2B customers. They're not customers. Remember, they're consumers. Look at your company inside out. Guy, do what customers want. None of this is rocket science. Invest in talent. Hannah, I think you'll have got the point that she's quite keen. You focus more on mobile and video. But she also pointed out that the average B2B buyer is a lot younger than the average person in this room. Titus, expand your marketing channels. Display has finally arrived. Test for conversions. Joanna, build your brands online. B2P, not B2B. Chris, silos ugly. Don't die on your feet. I thought that was magnificent coming from HP because they were busy dying on their feet when I used to sell to them back in the day. So that's quite a turnaround story. Rick, build your marketing brain. Jack Welsh, learn fast. Insights into action. These are the only ways to build competitive advantage. And lastly, Jeremy, I thought, brilliant job there. B2B and B2C are effectively becoming the same. They're becoming identical apart from the scale. Don't look for marginal gains. You can't make marginal gains. We're a company all about radical innovation. I thought that was fantastic. It's a lot easier to make something 10 times better than 5% better. And mobile customer journeys, no one's focusing on them enough. So I'll sum it up. Lots of easy stuff. That's the weird thing, isn't it? You look at it, none of it's rocket science. The hard part, as I mentioned at the beginning, is the integration. Use the data to tell stories to the right people at the right time. One line. And then lastly, Jeremy mentioned Avinash. If you don't follow Avinash's blog, he's one of our most eccentric, even coming from me, he's one of our most eccentric and over-energetic thought leaders around digital marketing. Information is powerful. In my words, data is powerful. But the hard thing is, how do you use it? How do you use it? That's what will define you, not how much big data you have, how you use it. And as I mentioned at the beginning, we believe the two things you can do to use it better are use great technology, and then it's really up to you to integrate it across the whole piece Jeremy mentioned at the end. So thank you very much for coming today. Hopefully it was useful. There's feedback forms around, so I can start blaming the bad people today. So please fill them out. But other than that, hopefully you found it useful, and most importantly, thought-provoking. And I'll finish on one point. We're not going anywhere. Google is literally here to help you with your businesses. So if anything was thought-provoking today, or you want to challenge it and say, Kevin, again, you were talking nonsense, that is absolutely fine. Please come back, find the people that look after you here at Google, and we're just here to help on all this complicated stuff. So thank you very much for coming.